G'day everyone. It's Archangel here, all things Sydney. Today we're live down here in Sydney's Memorial Park, Hyde Park, down at the Archibald Fountain. We're here for the Rally for Palestine. I'll welcome everyone to the stream. I ask you to please read the pinned post and the description. I value and respect everyone's comments, thoughts and opinions. However, please keep them within YouTube guidelines and also the channel guidelines, or else you will find your comment being deleted, which makes your opinion sort of invalid. So please, if you have a thought or opinion, feel free to share it. Welcome to the stream. Huh? No, okay, well then G'day to everyone as well. Welcome to the stream. I won't be giving personal shout outs today for obvious reasons. Don't think I'm being rude. But thank you very much for joining. Feel free to share the stream out to your social medias. Let them know Archangel is now live here in Sydney. Down here for the Rally for Palestine today here in Sydney, Australia. They're just finishing setting up the final touches, as you can see.
Second. I didn't get it. Yeah.
Jay Sargis, I certainly did. Just a friendly warning, some of the images and or vocalizations you may hear today are pretty PG rated. Please be reminded, this is a PG rated stream. Today's rally will be followed by a march. I will not reveal the location for obvious reasons. And thousands of people have turned out today. They're trying to do crowd control here, as you can see.
My mother-in-law. I'm on the campus coming.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah. I'm in as much as off the bus.
yeah, that's fine.
Tracy Taylor, thank you very much for tuning in. G'day there, Joe. Welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for joining. If you are just tuning in, welcome to the stream. Please read the pinned post and also the descriptions. I encourage everyone to use their voice and their opinions, and please share them. However, any words or comments that are considered against YouTube guidelines and all this channel guidelines will be removed immediately. Make your voices and opinions heard. Make them valid. Keep them respectful. Keep them passionate. It's now 2 minutes to 1 p.m. here in Sydney, Australia, with this rally due to start at 1 p.m. exactly. I can see they're already setting up. There is a planned march after this rally finishes here at Archibald Fountain in Hyde Park. I will not reveal the location. But as you can see, there are a lot of people here today of all ages. Absolutely tragic. Mike 88 NYC, welcome to the stream. On my channel, depending what the stream is all about, you're welcome to discuss politics. As I said, as long as it's respectful and dignified, not against YouTube guidelines or the channel guidelines, your comments won't be deleted. In fact, your opinions and thoughts are encouraged. Thank you very much for joining the stream. We've all seen the images go global around the world. We've seen the news footage. We've seen all the details.
Just off the bus, thank you. Guys, off the bus. Guys, please off the bus.
I don't know if you can hear, but a lot more people have turned out than what they expected. And of course, this is the situation.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Peace and blessings be upon all of you. Can we just ask you to move away from the grass area? Unless you're a marshal standing there. So just... So they can put this stuff there. Okay, is there another one? No. Yeah, fine. free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! I can't hear you. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In your loudest voices, in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want your bloody war. 5, 6, 7, 8, Israel is a terror state. Free, free Palestine! Come on, everyone. I know your voices are louder than that. Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From Sydney to Palestine! Long live Palestine! Shame, shame, USA! Down, down, USA! Shame, shame, Israel! Down, down, Israel! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Long live Palestine! Long live Gaza! Long live Gaza! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Shame, shame, USA! Down, down, USA! In our thousands, in our millions! We are all Palestinians! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Palestine Long live Gaza! Long live Gaza! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Louder, everyone, louder! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Long live Gaza! Long live Gaza! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die!
Thanks everyone for coming out today to stand in solidarity with the Palestinians. Free, free Palestine! We've seen in the last couple of days, after 2 weeks of the massacre in Gaza, hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians being brutalised by Israeli forces in Al-Quds and Sheikh Jarrah. Palestinians in their thousands, hundreds of thousands marching to protest against their oppression. We've had massive turnouts here in Sydney to stand in solidarity with the Palestinians in their struggle against Israeli apartheid. And we're out here again today to say that Sydney stands with the Palestinians and we're going to keep fighting until Palestine is free. We're here to call bullshit on the so-called ceasefire. There is no peace without justice, and there is no justice in Israel. A country which occupies millions of Palestinians and denies them their fundamental rights is not just. There will be no meaningful peace for Palestinians until the Palestinians have the right to return, until the siege on Gaza is ended, and until the occupation of the West Bank is history. My name's Damien Ridgewell. I'm an activist in the Palestine Action Group. I want to introduce the co-chairs for today as well, Ophelia and Asala, who are going to be introducing our speakers. Before I call up Ophelia to begin, I want to acknowledge the country that we're meeting on. We were going to have Lizzie Jarrett, who is a tremendous Indigenous activist here in Sydney, was going to be speaking. She's had to pull out because of a family emergency, but we want to acknowledge that we're here on stolen Indigenous land. As we fight against the racism, the genocide and the dispossession of Israeli apartheid, we have to show our solidarity with the Indigenous people who are fighting against the racism of the Australian state today. So we recognise that this is Gadigal land. It was stolen. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I'm going to hand it over now to Ophelia to say a few words and introduce our next speaker.
G'day, City. Welcome to the stream.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and peace and blessings be upon all of you.
For those watching, thank you very much for welcoming.
My name is Ophelia Haragli, and my co-chair Damien has already introduced himself, and obviously you heard Asala's wonderful voice. Before we begin, I'd just like to say that everybody here today respects the rich diversity of people that have attended to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters. This includes everyone on everyone that's standing here, everyone that's standing beside you, the speakers on the stage, the organisers of the rally, and anyone who has endorsed the rally. Persecution has no religion, gender or ethnicity, and the crimes being committed in Palestine are crimes against humanity. Shame on Israel, shame! Today is about Palestine, and it does not matter where you come from or what your beliefs are. What matters today is that we peacefully stand strong and united in solidarity with the Palestinian people. I also ask that people remember that the struggle is not against Jews or Judaism. Our struggle is against a racist Zionist government and its siege on the Palestinian people and their land. For those who are chanting in an Arab tongue, I ask you to remember, if chanting in Arabic, to use the word Sahina or Sahyun, which means Zionists or Zionism, and not the word Yahud. لو سمحتوا استعملوا كلمة صهيون أو صهاينة بس ما تستعملوا كلمة يهود. On a daily basis, the Israeli government breaches international humanitarian laws, commits war crimes, stops aid from reaching Palestinian civilians who are desperately in need, the occupation, the settlements, the over-expanding borders of Israel and ever-shrinking Palestine, the economic blockade on Gaza, the humiliating and life-threatening checkpoints, the apartheid wall, and the collective punishment of the indigenous Palestinians are just some of the heinous crimes committed against the Palestinians. And again, we stand here today watching in horror as history repeats itself. We watch in horror as the fourth largest military advantage in the world rains down bombs and missiles onto a defenseless civilian population living in the most densely populated place on earth and the world's largest open-air concentration camp. Today, our government again condemns the Palestinians and perpetuates that lie of Israeli self-defense. The truth is genocide, oppression, state-sponsored mass murder, theft, land theft, apartheid, and occupation. Today we tell our governments and the terrorist leaders of Israel, we will not fall victim to your lies. We will not be bullied. We will not be terrorized. We will not give up on our consciences, and we will never, ever again accept that Israel be a law unto itself that oppresses, injures, and brutally murders innocent people. Today we tell our government that we stand firmly with the truth, the same conviction of truth and right that has kept the Palestinian people heroically steadfast in their resistance, their spirits, their will to fight and not to die, to rise up time and time again against their occupiers, and is this conviction of truth and right that we, amongst millions across the world, respect, support, and stand in solidarity with. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. I can't hear you. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want your bloody war. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want your bloody war. 5, 6, 7, 8, Israel is a terror state. 5, 6, 7, 8, Israel, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Israel, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. don't you cry. Palestine will never die. So as my co-chairs have introduced me, I would also like to introduce myself. My name is Asala Sayara. I was born in the city of Bethlehem, and I originally come from a village in Hebron, Al-Khalil, called Kharas. So for my people and for every Palestinian in the diaspora, I use my voice to represent you all. Many people might be asking, who are Palestinians? Who are you as a Palestinian? I say Palestinians are an indigenous nation. We are the indigenous people of all ancient races and all ancient religions. We are the unrelenting. We are the people of Gaza. We yearn for freedom. We love our homeland. And we will not surrender to oppression. We will not surrender to the Israeli occupation. And because of this, and because of the importance of raising our voice, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dalia Al-Haj Qasim. Dalia is a law and media graduate and proud Palestinian woman living on Gadical land. She's the daughter of Palestinian immigrants and the long-time activist with the Palestine Action Group. Please welcome Dalia Al-Haj Qasim. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that I'm standing here today on stolen Aboriginal land, the land of the Gadigal people. As a Palestinian, I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and I will always stand with you. This was and always will be Aboriginal land. I stand here today with a mixture of so many feelings. As a Palestinian, my heart is bleeding for my people. I feel a great sense of sadness and guilt, watching on as my Palestinian brothers and sisters suffer unspeakable pain and grief at the hands of the Israeli terrorist entity. Shame. As a Muslim, I feel betrayed by the so-called leaders of the Middle East who have proven time and time again that their allegiance lies with their puppeteer, the Israeli settler colony.
Guys, just give me a second. I'm just going to put you down on the ground just for a moment.
As an Australian living on stolen land, I feel a great sense of disappointment. I am appalled by the complicity of our government and our media in Israel's continual ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. But above all, as a human being, I am angry. I am angry that my paternal grandfather never got to return to his home after leaving in 1967. That he never got to breathe in the sweet air from his lemon and orange tree orchards again. I am angry that my maternal grandparents were forced to leave their home in 1967 and have since died with a free Palestine only on their tongues, having been deprived of their right to return to their homeland. I am angry that I and you have to stand here today and justify the fact that Israeli occupation is a crime, that Israeli apartheid is a real living force oppressing the Palestinian people, that the massacring of our children, our fathers, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters is a crime against humanity. For 73 years, the Palestinian people have been living in a constant state of Nakba. And more pressingly, over the past 2 weeks, the people of Gaza have been subjected to some of the most horrific forms of settler colonial aggression. We have seen the massacring of 65 Palestinian children in less than 2 weeks, the bombing of the Al-Jabali refugee camp, the wiping out of 22 members of the Al-Kulat family, and we will never forget their names nor their sacrifice. I want to take this moment to remind you all that whilst a ceasefire has been called, the oppression of the Palestinian people has not ended. Palestinians in Sheikh Jarrah still face dispossession at the hands of the Israeli settler colony. Palestinians continue to live as second
second-class citizens on their own land. The violent siege in Gaza has not ended. Illegal Israeli settlements continue to be built on stolen land. Palestinians continue to face extreme forms of violence by the Israeli occupation forces. There will be no rest until the racist apartheid Zionist regime is dismantled. For the Palestinians, there has been no ceasefire since 1948. We do not have to wait for more Palestinian deaths to continue our campaign against this colonialist apartheid regime. Israel's self-defense narrative is unraveling. The world has seen Israel for what it truly is, a vile, racist, oppressive settler colony. Israel has lost the war on public opinion, and now is a time more than ever to continue mobilizing. Continue to boycott Israeli products. Continue to push our government to place sanctions on Israel. Enough is enough. The anti-apartheid boycott movement freed our South African brothers and sisters, and it can free Palestine too. In 1948, Israel began its campaign to try and erase my people, a campaign to try and erase me before I was even born. And yet today, here we are in numbers testifying that Palestine still lives in each and every one of us. For 73 years, Israel, you've stolen our lands, burnt our olive trees, dispossessed our people, taken over our orchards, destroyed our homes, killed our children, but you will never destroy the Palestinian spirit. My name is Dalia Al-Hashqasem. My father is from Tulkarem and my mother is from Nablus. And I testify that my blood is Palestinian and you cannot erase me. Yes, the old will die, but the young will never forget. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Occupation is a crime! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Occupation is a crime!
Thank you so much, Dalia. I want you to join me in a quick chant. Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. Our next speaker is Peter Slezak, and we're all very familiar with the lies that the supporters of the criminal apartheid regime in Israel use to denounce the supporters of Palestine, that they label any criticism of the occupation and injustice as being anti-Semitic, and this has always been a lie. It's always been a shameful dishonesty to try and silence people from speaking the truth. Peter himself is a Jewish activist and writer who's long supported the Palestinian struggle. He's the co-founder of Independent Jewish Voices and a philosophy teacher at the University of New South Wales. So please make him very welcome.
Just joined. Welcome to Star Council, live in Sydney, Australia, down for the Rally for Palestinians.
Thank you, everybody. It's a great privilege for me to be here with you today on this
as well as
terrible occasion. I'm here today in particular because I'm among many Jews, not enough, but many Jews around the world and here in Australia who are horrified and deeply ashamed by the barbarity of what Israel has been doing as the self-proclaimed Jewish state. As Jews, we have a special responsibility to speak out and protest about the crimes, the atrocities that are being perpetrated in our name. We're supposed to have learned a lesson from our own history of the Holocaust in particular, when in fact ordinary decent people, the Germans and others, watched it happen and did nothing. The lesson we are supposed to have learned is to stand up and speak out for the victims and not to make excuses for the perpetrators. And right now, we are not the victims, we are the perpetrators. And the slogan which the Jews use a lot, meaning never again, should of course mean never again to anybody and not just to the Jews. As other speakers have said, there has been a ceasefire, but it's not over. And of course, it didn't start a couple of weeks ago with the rockets. It started 73 years ago, and in fact, a lot earlier than that. Now the brutal occupation continues. The evictions continue. The house demolitions continue. The shooting of unarmed Palestinians continues. In short, the Nakba continues. So we have to do more than to come here to protest every few years when some terrible occasion like this breaks out. And first of all, we must counter the barrage of the lies and the propaganda that is so widespread. As on early occasions, the immense and heartbreaking devastation of Gaza was not the result of careful targeting, according to the propaganda, and the so-called collateral damage, but it was, and you may not know, a policy of deliberate slaughter. It has a name. Israeli official military policy calls it the Dahia Doctrine. Look it up in Wikipedia. It's an explicit military strategy to use disproportionate force to inflict suffering on the residential population, as we've seen, and on civilian infrastructure in order to achieve political rather than any military goal. That's one of the lies that the propaganda from Israel will present, as if the military justified its actions. This was not a war, it was an atrocity and a barbarity, and it's terrorism according to the strict definition. In particular, we only hear of Israel's right to defend itself, but of course, what about the right of the Palestinians to defend themselves? The population of Gaza, as you all know, has been kept for 15 years under most inhumane, crushing, and criminal collective punishment, which is technically known as belligerent occupation. The point that's relevant here is that we cannot condemn the rockets from Gaza until we condemn the vast and vastly greater crimes, the atrocities, the mass murder, and the violations of international law by Israel. In particular, we must call for the accountability of Israel in the International Criminal Court, the ICC. And as I was saying, we must counter the barrage of the propaganda lies. It's important to understand that the entire story of Israel and Palestine since 1948, and actually since 1917, has been distorted and falsified in the entire mainstream narrative, in the popular intellectual culture, and in the mainstream media. This is what we are up against. But we have to understand that we have a weapon that is ultimately more powerful than the well-funded propaganda machine of the Israel lobby and its apologists and mouthpieces in the media and politics. We have justice and we have the truth. There is some good news, and the good news is that things are changing. For example, there was a New York Times article a few days ago about the significant shift in attitudes to Israel. This is quite significant in the New York Times. The title of the article was, using a phrase that presidents have said, the title was, "The unshakable bonds of friendship with Israel are shaking." It's about time. And it's significant also that Bernie Sanders gave really quite a remarkable speech in the US Congress, saying what I think all of us feel strongly. A particularly important part of the problem is, of course, the attitudes themselves of the Israelis. They are in complete denial, as you can hear from the great Israeli journalist, Gideon Levy, who describes what's going on in Israel. And of course, I have to say with great shame that not only the Israelis themselves, but the Jewish population, the diaspora Jews in Australia and elsewhere in the world. But the good news there is also that it's changing, inevitably, especially in the United States, where it's very important and where the Jewish community tend to be more progressive. And there is some very significant developments, which I can't detail here, but it's worth being aware of it. So that there's this breakdown in this wall of the culpable ignorance. And one of the signs of this is that Israel's own human rights organization, B'Tselem, has come out and described Israel as a regime of Jewish supremacy and apartheid, from the river to the sea. This is actually very significant coming, not that the Palestinians haven't known this very well, but it's now significant coming from the Jewish human rights organization in Israel. And also the very important International Human Rights Watch has also come out and declared Israel an apartheid regime. These are very important developments. Let me wind up by talking about the problem of anti-Semitism. The first thing I want to say is that I want to pay tribute to the audiences like this at rallies and to the Palestinians generally, who, as we saw earlier in the introduction, make a clear distinction between the Jews and Israel. And the criticism of Israel is not the criticism of Jews as such. That's very important. And I'm grateful for your claim and acknowledgement of that, because the Zionist lobby, the Israel lobby, watches these rallies very carefully, and they pick up on any hint, however justified or unjustified, that this is, they describe them as rallies of Jew hatred. And I'm paying tribute to you for the fact that you understand that this is about the crimes of the state of Israel and not about the Jews. In that connection, finally, I want to say a couple more things to end with. The charge of anti-Semitism has been weaponized by the Israel lobby in a way that's become an international scandal, but very significant. The American government and about 20 governments around the world have adopted a definition of anti-Semitism, which perniciously includes 7 of its 11 definitions as criticism of Israel. This is really a scandal, and now there is a pushback as well, but we have to understand that it's not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, despite these worldwide efforts, and we have to pay attention to this. Finally, let me say something about what we can do. We have to act, of course, to end Israel's impunity. Governments, and especially the US government and our own, have failed to hold Israel to account. One important answer to this, among the many, is the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, BDS. And by the way, BDS is always criticized as being anti-Semitic by the most disgraceful comparison of what the Nazi Germans did during the war in the 1930s, where they were attempting to boycott Jewish shops. These were the Nazis, and we in BDS are being compared now to a human rights movement which stands for international law and for justice and for peaceful protest. And this is a scandal which we have to be aware of and to stand up against. The principal targets of BDS around the world have not been Jewish and not been Israeli. They've been corporations, institutions which are profiting from the occupation. And you can join up on BDS Australia's website to help fight this struggle. And I wanted to remember to mention that there's a BDS table over there, which you should go over to and sign up to help fight in this struggle. So finally, I want you to join activist groups and advocacy groups like the BDS group and help fight the struggle until the end of the occupation and Palestine is free. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live the Intifada! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! The next speaker I'm going to introduce is Ahmed Abadla. Ahmed is a Palestinian from Gaza, and he's on the board of Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions Australia. Please make him feel welcome.
I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. This land was never ceded. My name is Ahmed, and I am from Gaza. I haven't been able to see my family for about 8 years now, and it's been draining and exhaustive, to say the least. But today is not about me. Today is about them standing up against the Israeli war machine while the entire free world watch. Today is about them refusing to surrender their livelihood to the Zionist settler colonial project that is Israel. It is about Palestinians all the way from the Galilee through to Gaza, going past Sheikh Jarrah, revolting against what has been finally acknowledged to be apartheid Israel. This might be news to some, but for the past 14 years, 2 million Gazans have been living in an open-air prison, including my family, 1 million of whom are children under the age of 18, including my nieces and nephews. More than 70% of Gazan had already been refugees driven by force from neighboring Palestinian cities since the 1948 Nakba, when more than 750,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from their land that is now referred to as Israel. similar to what we've been witnessing happening in East Jerusalem's Sheikh Jarrah just recently. But this time is different. A threshold has been passed, my friend. I want to thank every one of you for coming out today in support of their constant struggle. I'm very humbled by the enormity of this crowd. I want to thank you for your solidarity and for getting angry. For anger is an emotion that instills confidence, but more importantly, leads to action. And action is what Palestinians need at this critical juncture. But how can I act, you ask? Do I support your cause and pray for the Palestinians? Yes, and I thank you for that. Do I come to rallies and chant in solidarity for Gaza? Yes, and I'd appreciate your presence here. But what if I told you that there's another effective way that we can all do in our everyday life to force Zionist Israel to stop committing these heinous crimes against my people? More than 16 years ago, the Palestinian civil society have called upon the international community to join their BDS campaign against Israel. That is the call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Israel is heavily dependent on large international corporations to thrive economically, some of which are deeply implicated in the ongoing human rights violations against the Palestinian people. Businesses like Puma, SodaStream, HP, and many more are on top of that list. And so next time you buy a SodaStream product, think about those children who have no access to clean water, where 96% of Gaza's water is unfit for human consumption. Next time you want to buy a Puma soccer ball, think of the Gazan children murdered during the last 2014 massacre while playing at the beach, while playing soccer at the beach of Gaza City. Next time you purchase a laptop or any electronic gadget that has HP label on it, think of the 2 million Gazans trapped by a siege that is facilitated and tightened by HP surveillance equipment. There's a whole heap of actions we can all do to effectively exert economic pressure onto apartheid Israel. Get on your mobile phone, jump on bdsaustralia.net.au, and be part of that civil resistance against injustice. But please, my friends, be sure and careful to follow their guidance and disciplines, and not venture into any racist or anti-Semitic territories. Let's all combine our prayers with action, and let's keep coming back here every weekend until the entire Zionist settler colonial regime is dismantled. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! 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 Okay, everyone, our next speaker is going to be speaking from the stage over there.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians! Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied! I can't hear you. Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want your bloody war. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want your bloody war. 5, 6, 7, 8, Israel is a terror state. 5, 6, 7, 8, Israel is a terror state. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today? You need to be louder because we need to send that message. Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today? Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Israel, USA! Israel, USA! How many kids have you killed today? How many kids have you killed today? One thing that Israel failed to consider when they displaced our ancestors 73 years ago, that the grandchildren of my ancestors, the Palestinians all around the world, will return and fight for their rights. And one of many rights that we Palestinians have is our right to return back home. And the final fact is that we still cling to our keys to our stolen homes in Haifa, and Acta. And these keys symbolize our right of return. And it's a symbol that we refuse to let go of our dignity. And we will continue to resist, and we will continue to celebrate our resistance as long as there is air in our lungs and Palestine in our hearts. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Amal. Amal Nasser is a proud Palestinian refugee living on Gadical land. She's passionate about the intersection of law and Indigenous rights, and she will be talking about the right of return. Please introduce Amal.
My name is Amal and I'm the child of the Nakba.
Takbir! 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 We ask you to listen to Emma while she's speaking now.
My name is Amal and I'm the child of the Nakba. My beautiful grandparents were forcefully displaced from their land, and my grandmother is the only survivor of my family waiting for a free Palestine. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people, traditional custodians of the land in which we gather today, and paying my respects to their elders past and present. And I extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. A land without a people for a people without land. This was a widely coined phrase during the Zionist movement, but we know that this was not the case. Palestine was home to over 700,000 Arabs, Muslims, Christians and Jews, and now there are 7.2 million Palestinian refugees. But our history is often silenced. We are often dehumanized by numbers to indeed make us a land without the people. But I'll no longer be silenced, for we are a land with unique stories and we deserve our right to return. In one of my first conversations about the right to return, I was told that the right to return should not be extended to descendants, as we now have a new home and we were not the ones who were displaced. It is difficult to reconcile Australia as my home. It is difficult to call a country which oppresses its Indigenous population and denies that this is stolen land. I cannot call this country my home when our leaders see the bloodbaths in Gaza and then fail to condemn them, claiming that Israel has a right to defend itself. I cannot call a country my home which does not recognize my Palestinian identity as legitimate, where Palestine is yet to be a recognized state. I cannot call this country my home because I am simply a visitor on stolen Gadigal land, waiting for my true home, my birthright to be free, and for me to have a right to return. And to the claim that we weren't dispossessed, We were dispossessed from our culture, from our right to life, and for our right to live in the homes that our ancestors built. I buried my pain and trauma for so long due to the guilt of being in this country, away from the oppression, away from the apartheid. But my pain has unsurfaced and I cannot hold it back any longer. As I see the ethnic cleansing in Sheikh Jarrah and the pain of the residents losing their homes, I see that pain in myself and I realize that Israel has taken something from me too. For so long, my heart has been empty and I realized it was always yearning for Palestine. I was yearning for the home that I have never met, yearning for my birthright and my culture. The Palestinian culture is unique and one of a kind, and that was taken from me. Palestine is about life in times of tragedy, but is also so much more than that. It is about neighborhood and community and hospitality and kindness and love. And we saw that in Sheikh Jarrah, in Al-Quds and Gaza, where despite all their losses, they taught us the importance of family, community, and teaching children lives. I lost that here. The Palestinian community lost our ability to connect to our unique land with many stories. We lost the ability to sit under the Palestinian sun and grow our Palestinian olive trees. Our land and our ability to gather and become a family is key to our identity. Our culture has been broken in the diaspora, but our parents never let it die. Sharing the stories of Palestine and never letting us forget who we are. We maintain the strengths of the Palestinians and we see that here today as we all come here to fight for Palestine. I am an indigenous Palestinian woman. My home is Palestine and Palestine is my birthright. The young will never forget and we will not surrender our right to return. We will not surrender, for we know that for the full decolonization of Palestine to be achieved, we need to be loud. We need to be strong and we need to scream that Palestine will never die, and we need to constantly advocate for our right to return always. But before I end, I urge everyone here today not to end their fight at Free Palestine. Our right to return to Palestine cannot be achieved unless we dismantle racism everywhere. All racism is rooted in vile concepts of supremacy, and we must continuously educate ourselves of the experiences of different communities and understand that racism in all forms is still systemically entrenched in our society today. First Nations people are still ethnically cleansed on their land, where our high school syllabuses are complicit in whitewashing their history from the stolen to the 500 Aboriginal deaths in custody since 1991. We need to support their fight in ending this. We must also understand that neo-Nazism and the ethnic cleansing of Jews did not end at the Holocaust, and we still see the horrors of violent anti-Semitism today, where synagogues and Jewish neighborhoods are being attacked by neo-Nazi white supremacists. These same white supremacists have infected our society, attacking the black community, the Asian community, the brown community, the Muslim community, simply because of the idea that one race is superior to the other. As our own system is an apartheid system, it is inherently systemically racism. And Palestine cannot be liberated from Zionism. We cannot have a right to return until we combat racism everywhere, because we are not free until we are all free. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Palestine will never die! 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 Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! I want to share a message that has been sent by one of our sisters from Gaza. She says, after the war ends, that's if we stay alive, give us few years to heal from what we have witnessed and lived. You'll see us tired and quiet. We don't try to talk, we don't comment. Hug us with your prayers. Let us understand what has happened to us in the past 8 years. Their rockets didn't only destroy houses, but also our lives. So let us fix the destruction that happened to our souls. We tell our sister Salmin, we tell all of our brothers and sisters in Gaza and in Palestine, we will not leave you. We will be with you until there is a free Palestine, free of the Palestinian movement. There aren't many politicians in Australia who stand in solidarity with Palestine. Shame! Shame! But there is one with us today, Jenny Leong. Jenny is a Member of Parliament, MP of the New South Wales Parliament in the Greens Party and holds the seat of Newtown. Please welcome Jenny Leong. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming out today on Gadigal land. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are here on Gadigal land to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And there is no one that understands the genocide, the invasion, the colonisation, and the injustice that goes with that than the First Nations people of this country, and they stand in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle. Assalamu alaikum. I stand here today as a representative of the Greens, as a member of that New South Wales Parliament and a member for Newtown. I stand here as a passionate advocate for human rights and for peace with justice, just like you. Today, we come here in solidarity. We come here in defiance, and we come here to stand and recognise the people of Palestine that are here on Gadigal land today and offer them our solidarity and respect. We also stand in solidarity with the Palestinians in Gaza, in East Jerusalem, in Sheikh Jarrah, and in the West Bank. We stand in solidarity with the Palestinians in Israel, and the solidarity with the Palestinians have been forced to live their lives in refugee camps since they were expelled from their homeland forcibly in 1948. Shame! And we stand in solidarity with the Palestinians who have lost their lives most recently and in previous attacks on the Palestinian people as a result of the inhumane treatment and actions of the Israeli authorities. And we come here as an act of defiance, as an act of resistance. We condemn the violence, we condemn the impunity, and we condemn the racist colonial project that is underway. And we will follow in the lead of the Palestinian people who, despite the risks, despite the violence, continue to defy the Israeli authorities and attempts to policy and police and drive the Palestinian people out of their homes and out of their land. We say shame for that. Shame! Palestinians have shown incredible solid over many, many generations. They will stand strong and they will persevere until justice is realized. The situation in Gaza is so tragic and so completely unjust. We have seen many hundreds of people killed. We have seen many thousands wounded by war. And we have seen just in these 3 weeks alone, 72,000 Palestinians displaced and forcibly removed from their homes as a result of the indiscriminate bombing and attacks by the Israeli authorities on their homes. And while it is absolutely crucial that we see an end to the current violence, that the disproportionate Israeli authority attacks on Palestinian civilians who have no way of escaping the missiles and bombs that fall on Gaza, and the fact that they need to cease that bombing right now. Let us be clear. Let us be really clear. That a ceasefire alone will not end the blockade. A ceasefire alone will not end the land theft. A ceasefire alone will not end the apartheid. There can be no peace without justice. A ceasefire alone will not resolve the actions taken by the Israeli authorities that intentionally and severely deprive millions of Palestinians of their key fundamental human rights. There must be peace with justice. A ceasefire alone will not resolve the rights of Palestinians to self-determination. A ceasefire alone will not resolve the rights of Palestinians to return. A ceasefire alone will not protect the right to equality and not discrimination, nor will it protect the rights of life, liberty, health, water, or security. A ceasefire alone is not enough. There is no peace without justice. Palestinians are expected to talk peace while being forced to give up their rights and give up more and more of their homelands. Palestinians are expected to talk peace when they are attacked in the Al-Aqsa Mosque with tear gas and bombs and troops. Even yesterday, after the ceasefire was established, we saw intimidation and attacks in that mosque, and that is a shame. Shame on the Israeli authorities. But how much more are Palestinians expected to take? How many more children have to die before we hear the international community, the United States, the Australian government step up and call for action? What is the United Nations doing about the problem that they created? And what about the US government? What about the Australian government? It seems that the Australian government are only interested in condemning human rights violations when they're perpetrated by China. Shame on the hypocrisy of that. The United States cannot pretend to be an honest broker in this battle. With billions of US dollars going to military so-called aid, and just yesterday the US President Biden committing to replenish the Israeli Iron Dome. Well, I say to the US President, where is the similar commitment from the US to protect the lives of Palestinian people? Where is the similar commitment to protect the Palestinian children from the indiscriminate bombing that we are seeing inflicting death and causing harm to Palestinians? And what about the Australian government? There is silence, deadly silence in the face of this barbarism. Where is the Prime Minister calling out these atrocities? Where is the leader of the opposition calling out these atrocities? The Greens, like you, recognise that when it comes to meeting our international obligations, we need to take things seriously. We recognise that there is a need for Australia to halt all military cooperation and all military ties with Israel. At the very least, there needs to be an arms embargo, and we need to see targeted sanctions against the perpetrators. It is beyond disgraceful that the Australian government is profiting from the devastation of war. We see those relationships between arms dealers, between arms manufacturers, and profits of big companies, all at the cost of Palestinian lives, and that cannot continue. There must be an end to the occupation. There must be an end to the apartheid laws. And we must free Gaza and send in aid to be able to help those that have been devastated by the most recent destruction. The global movement of international solidarity has continued to build. We see Italian and South African dockers refusing to load and unload Israeli ships. That is international solidarity. And internationally, we see the successful BDS movement continue on its path to say that we need to hold perpetrators to account for the types of violations they inflict. Despite the Israeli government and authorities' attempts to dismantle and undermine the BDS movement, it continues to grow as a grassroots movement called for by Palestinians back in 2005. And just as happened in South Africa, the people coming together demanding change will see an end to this apartheid. So today, on Getting Along, we say solidarity with the Palestinian people. We say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine. The bill. I just want to tell. I just want to tell people here that when you hear the words Allahu Akbar, you should know that Allah is the only word that we use to describe God in Arabic, irrespective of what religion or the absence of religion that people follow. And the Palestinian tongue is an Arab tongue. Takbir! 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 A letter from a female Palestinian prisoner. To my brothers on the front lines and to my brothers who sit idle in their homes, Assalamu alaikum. Dear brothers, we are your sisters. Do you not hear our prayers, our lamentations? Have the walls of our cells and the luxuries of your lives deafened you? Or have the luxuries of your lives erased your ghira from your sisters? Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Okay, we need everybody's coordination here because we're about to do something that we need complete silence for. Some of the organisers have asked if you guys can get on one knee, if you can, if that's possible. Can people get on one knee? Can everybody get down on one knee? Are we ready to go? We're going to do one more chant and then I'm going to ask you guys to observe 1 minute silence. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! We will now observe a minute's silence for the 219 adults and 63 children murdered by Israel in an attempt to continue to ethnically cleanse Palestine. Are we ready to go? I'm just making this up. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. For those who don't understand it, it simply means, and for us, God is sufficient. Please, no more chanting because we're about to start. You too. In between, I'll be reading the names of the children who were butchered by the Zionist Israeli government. Oh no, we have to say this. What do you mean? We need both of them.
Welcome, Steve Michael, to the stream. I appreciate your thoughts and honest opinions. I very much appreciate you joining the stream. You're more than welcome.
Okay, maybe we'll do some chants, yeah, while we're waiting. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! At the back there, I can't hear you. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today? Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today? Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Louder voices, everyone! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza!
From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Okay, we ask as many people as they can to kneel. We're about to start the performance.
You stand up. You pull it.
Can everybody please sit down so we can get started? That way everybody can see the performance. Otherwise people at the front won't be able to in the back. They're all standing at one stage. Everybody behind the performer, sit down, please. Everybody behind the performer, sit down. Dima Rami Al-Franji, 16. Adam Azzad Al-Kawlak, 3. Qusay Sameh Al-Kawlak, 1. Zayed Izad Al-Kawlak, 8. Zain Riyad Istikhamta, 8. Dana Riyad, 5. Ismail Al-Tanani, 9. Amir Al-Tanani, 6. Adham Al-Tanani, 5. Muhammad Al-Tanani, 4. Farah Wissam Arabli, 6. Ahad Muhammad Al-Masri, 10. Marwan Yusuf Al-Masri, 7. Hamza Mahmoud Ali, 12. Hala Hussein, 14. Zayed Muhammad Al-Tilbani, 5. Amir Taysir Al-Amour, 11. Hamada Atiyah Al-Amour, 13. Muhammad Auni Al-Kawlak, 17. Ahmad Al-Kawlak, 17. Muhammad Abidayeh, 3. Khalid Al-Kandar, 1. Islam Zain Al-Athar, 1. That concludes the performance. What we're going to do now is the people who just performed will be taking the coffins and all of the props that you saw.
So we ask that you make space for them so they can move to the front of the march. We'll be marching to Belmore Park. There are marshals here. If you have any questions, just ask them. They're wearing yellow vests. Damien will be at the front of the march. Please do not proceed marching until you see Damien right at the very front. Please stay within the boundaries. Do not march on. Yeah. Mom.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Gaza, don't declare. Gaza, don't declare. Gaza, don't declare. Gaza, don't declare.
Okay, cool.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Israel, USA! How many kids have been killed today? Israel, USA! How many kids have been killed today? Israel, USA! How many kids have been killed today? Israel, USA! How many kids have been killed today? Free, free Palestine! 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 Israel, USA! How many kids have been killed today? Israel, USA! How many kids have been killed today?
I couldn't give you an exact estimate, Jason, Sarges, but it's definitely in the thousands. The number of people that respond to the events compared to the number of people that actually do arrive to these events are vastly different. As of yesterday it said 1,200 people were expected. This morning it almost tripled to 3,000. And hence those are the numbers that are willing to, say publicly on a social media forum of their attendance, which all these things are followed closely by the lovely people that are right in front of me right now, which I'm not even going to turn around and show. And that is the people in the blue and white.
Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. Resistance is justified. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
No one ran about.
Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! Israel, USA, how many kids have been killed today? Israel, USA, how many kids have been killed today? Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
For those wishing to join the stream, welcome. Please read the pinned post as well as the description. Remember, this is Archangel, all things Sydney. I cover everything that happens here in Sydney, Australia. You're welcome to your opinions, make them respectful. If you want to keep your opinions valid, keep them respectful, don't get them deleted. A deleted comment means nothing. Be respectful. Sit up. That's it. That's it. That's it.
That's it.
As you can see to my right, which I'm not going to show too much, we've got as you can see, there is a large contingent of the people in the blue and white down here today in Sydney. This is a very peaceful protest, rally, whatever the words you want to use. These are people of Sydney that are out here showing their voices and letting them be heard. Likewise, if you want your voice heard, put it in the chat, put your thoughts and opinions in the chat, keep it respectful, change the words around. I respect everyone's thoughts and opinions. Remember, I'm Archangel, all things Sydney. And when I say all things Sydney, that's all things Sydney.
Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Down, down Israel. Down, down Israel.
Everybody down. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Down, down Israel. 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 Free, free Gaza. 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 Free, free Gaza.
So currently the rally is making its way down to Belmore Park, which is right next to Central Railway Station in the heart of the Sydney CBD. As there are, I'll suggest, just around about maybe 10,000 people. They've got to wait for the other part of the sections to all come together. What you are about to see is how many people have turned up here today in Sydney, Australia, for this particular rally. This is only just the start of the front, as you know. And when we make our way down to Belmore Park, you are going to see the rest of the group that has amassed down here in Sydney, Australia. Thank you all those that have joined the live stream today. I do appreciate your thoughts and comments, whether you agree or disagree. I respect them and I welcome them, as long as I keep them within the YouTube guidelines and also the channel guidelines. I appreciate it very much. I do repeat once again, I am Archangel, all things Sydney. All things Sydney. The rally down here today has caused a lot of community chaos, which was expected. Non-violent direct action. Roads have been cordoned off, roads have been sealed off. Cars are being asked to reroute around the city. I'm not quite sure what's just occurred, but there seems to be a little bit of a hold-up. And some of the organisers have walked back, as well as you can see the other ones. Before I do forget, thank you very much to all those moderators in chat today, helping out. There were multiple live streams going just now. All these events are very well organised. The different colour vests represent different, I'll use the word, positions. There's even wording on each vest. So whilst I won't show you what the back of mine says, as you can see, Archangel is in but there is different wording on each vest. It represents a different thing. So organisers as well as other people also know what each person is required to do or what their reasons are for being here. So what you're about to see is slowly all these people making their way into Belmore Park. This will give you a pretty good idea of how many people have turned out here today. It is absolutely true, Mike, at NYC. I also love people standing up for what they believe in and not letting mass media scare this true democracy. I also believe in not being, personally, as I always say on this channel, I try to remain impartial for all things. I neither give a positive nor negative opinion on what is occurring today. I let people have their voice and say whatever they wish to say on this platform today. However, in chat, it's a different story. You can say whatever you like as long as you're respectful, whether you agree or disagree. The other thing I don't give into is if you've seen some of my other all things Sydney rallies that I've attended, I have risked being arrested at these events. And I'm willing to wake up in the morning and say to myself, today, Archangel will or may be arrested today. Watching. So as you can see, the congregation is still making its way through the tunnels down here to Sydney, and it's already filled up the start of Belmore Park here. You're not for freedom rights? You're not for freedom rights? Freedom rights? Freedom rights? No, it's not. It's off YouTube. On Facebook.
Palestine will be free!
So directly behind me, as you can see, it's now standing room only here at Belmore Park, and they're still coming in their droves. As you can now see, it's actually physically stopped. It is that full in Belmore Park. It's literally stopped and the people are still arriving.
Palestine will be free. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free. Palestine will never die.
Palestine will never die.
Palestine will never die.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
No, just defeat the Al-Aqsa.
Defeat the Al-Aqsa.
Defeat the Al-Aqsa.
Well said, Mike. 88 NYC. See what I'm going to say, guys? Thank you very much for joining the stream today. Down here live in Sydney, Australia, you've seen the Free Palestine rally down here. From the Archibald Fountain in Hyde Park through to Belmore Park. We've heard lots of speakers today. You can rewind the stream and watch it all over again. Again, you feel free to leave comments in the comments section. Just keep them within the YouTube guidelines and the channel guidelines as well. Make your voices heard, make your opinions matter. Thank you for everyone that's joined the stream today. Whether you agree with it or not, I do appreciate you being here. I'll give you the voice, I'll give you the quality. Feel free to leave a comment as well. I'll always reply. Again, this is Archangel for all things Sydney, and I mean all things Sydney. Whatever's going on in our world, whatever I believe in, I will be here to show you.
Wow.